Oh look, everyone. The failure finally showed up. My mom's voice rang out across the crowded living room the second I walked through the door. I'm Jessica Hart. I'm 34. And I just flew from San Francisco to Detroit for what I thought would be a normal family Christmas. Instead, I got 20 relatives staring at me while my mother announced to the room, Jessica's still playing with her little computer thing. No real job. No husband. No kids. But hey, at least she's got her laptop. The room erupted in uncomfortable laughter. My cousin Sarah smirked from the couch. My uncle shook his head like I was a lost cause. My brother Marcus raised his beer in a mock toast. I stood there in the doorway, snow melting off my coat, feeling exactly like I did at every family gathering for the past 12 years. Like the family disappointment. The one who couldn't get it together. But here's what none of them knew. 3 weeks earlier, I had signed papers that changed my entire life. And the announcement I was about to make at Christmas dinner would wipe every single smug smile off their faces and make my mother regret every cruel word she'd ever said to me. Want to know how one sentence at the dinner table made my whole family go silent and turned my mother's face white as the snow outside? Stay with me until the end, because this is the story of how I made them all eat their words, literally and figuratively, and finally got the last laugh I'd been waiting over a decade for. The mocking didn't start that Christmas. It started 12 years ago when I dropped out of my MBA program at Michigan to move to California and work on Sum Up Idea with my college roommate, David. I'll never forget the phone call. "You're doing what?" My mom screamed so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. "You're throwing away a graduate degree from a top program to go play Silicon Valley? Are you out of your mind? Do you know how stupid you sound?" "Mom, this could be really big. We have investors interested already." "Investors," she laughed bitterly. "Jessica, you've always been a dreamer. But this is just sad. You need a real career. Real security. Your brother Marcus has a job at Ford. Your cousin Sarah is a nurse. What are you? Some wannabe entrepreneur who's going to come crawling back broke in 6 months." I didn't come crawling back in 6 months. But I didn't become an overnight success either. For the next 12 years, I lived in cramped apartments with 3 roommates, ate ramen more nights than I'd like to admit, and worked 80-hour weeks building a supply chain software platform that I believed would revolutionize how mid-sized manufacturers manage their inventory. It wasn't sexy. It wasn't Instagram-worthy. But it was solving a real problem. My mom didn't see any of that. She only saw what I wasn't. Every single family gathering became a performance where I was the punchline. Thanksgiving 2018, Jessica's still doing her computer hobby out in California. I tell people she's consulting because I'm too embarrassed to explain what she actually does. Easter 2019, you know what would make me happy? If you met someone. Anyone. But I guess successful men don't want women who don't have stable jobs. Christmas 2020, we're all on Zoom because of the pandemic, and Jessica's in that sad little apartment. Still no ring on that finger. Still no real career. At least the rest of us made something of ourselves. My brother Marcus loved piling on. He'd gotten his engineering job at Ford right out of college, married his high school sweetheart, bought a house in the suburbs, and produced 2 kids. In my mother's eyes, he was perfect. I was the cautionary tale. "Jessica, when are you going to grow up?" he'd say every time I visited. "You're not 22 anymore. This startup fantasy needs to end." You know Dad wouldn't have approved of this. That one hurt the most. Our dad had passed away when I was 24, right before I dropped out of my MBA. He never got to see what I was building. And my mom used his memory like a weapon, constantly saying, "Your father wanted you to have stability." He'd be so disappointed. But here's what kept me going through every holiday humiliation, every mocking phone call, every Facebook post where my mom bragged about Marcus's promotions while barely mentioning me. I knew what I was building was working. By 2022, our software was in 3,000 companies. By 2023, we'd hit $50 million in annual revenue. We had 200 employees. We were profitable. And in September 2024, a Fortune 500 company approached us with an acquisition offer that made my hands shake when I read it. $240 million. I own 38% of the company after all those years. Do the math. I was about to walk away with just over $91 million after taxes. But I didn't tell anyone. Not my mom. Not Marcus. Not the extended family who'd spent over a decade treating me like I was wasting my life. I wanted one more Christmas. One more round of mockery. One final performance before I burned their entire narrative to the ground. So there I was, standing in my childhood living room while my mom made jokes about my little computer thing and the family laughed on cue. I took off my coat, set down the gifts I'd brought, and smiled. "Good to see you too, Mom," I said calmly. She wasn't done. As we moved into the dining room where the table was set with her fancy china and her even fancier sense of superiority, she continued her greatest hits. "Jessica, you're not getting any younger. I was reading an article about women over 35 and fertility. You really should think about settling down before it's too late. I mean, you've wasted your 30s on this business thing. Don't waste your chance at a family too." My Aunt Linda chimed in. "She's right, honey. You don't want to end up alone." Marcus smirked from across the table. "Jess probably can't afford to date in San Francisco anyway. I heard it's expensive out there." "Good thing, Mom, and I can help you out if you need it, right, Mom?" My mother nodded seriously. "We're always here for you, Jessica. When this little venture falls apart and you need to come home and start over, we'll help you get back on your feet." I watched them all. My mom at the head of the table, queen of her domain. Marcus and his wife exchanging knowing glances. My cousins, aunts, uncles, all nodding along like this was just the natural order of things. Poor Jessica. The family failure. The one who needed saving. I took a sip of wine, set down my glass, and smiled wider. "Actually," I said casually, "I need to tell you all something. Something that happened a few weeks ago." My mom waved her hand dismissively. "If this is about needing money again." "I never asked you for money," I corrected quietly. "Well, you should have," she shot back. "Instead of too proud, living on scraps, pretending you're some big entrepreneur. At least if you'd asked us for help, you wouldn't have had to suffer for so long." The entire table went quiet, waiting for my response. This was the moment. The one I'd been imagining on the flight from San Francisco. The one I'd rehearsed in my head 1,000 times. I looked my mother directly in the eyes and said, "3 weeks ago, I sold my company. The acquisition closed last Tuesday. The sale price was $240 million. Silence. Complete, total, suffocating silence. My mom's fork froze halfway to her mouth. Marcus's face went slack. Sarah dropped her napkin. My uncle actually choked on his water. "What did you just say?" my mom whispered. "I sold my company," I repeated slowly, enjoying every single word. "My little computer thing that you've mocked for 12 years? A Fortune 500 company bought it for $240 million. I owned 38% of it. After taxes, I personally walked away with just over $91 million. You could have heard a pin drop." My mom shook her head, face draining of all color. No, that's not. You're lying. You're making this up to make me look bad." I pulled out my phone, opened my email, and turned the screen toward her. The subject line was clear: final closing documents, acquisition complete. "It's real, Mom. Very real." Marcus found his voice first. "91 million? You're saying you're worth $91 million. After taxes, yes. Before taxes, a bit more." My mom stood up suddenly, her chair scraping against the floor. "Why didn't you tell us? Why would you keep this a secret? When did this even happen?" I leaned back in my chair, perfectly calm. "I kept it a secret because I wanted to be here today. I wanted one more Christmas where you all treated me exactly the way you've treated me for the past 12 years. I wanted to hear one more speech about my computer hobby and my little venture and how I'm wasting my life. I wanted to remember exactly what it felt like to be the family disappointment." "Jessica," my mom started, but I held up my hand. "No, let me finish. Because you need to understand something. Every single time you mocked me, every single time you told relatives I was a failure, every single time you compared me to Marcus and made me feel small, I was out there building something real. Something valuable. Something that just made me more money than everyone at this table will make in their entire lives combined." The room was so quiet I could hear my aunt's watch ticking. And the saddest part? I continued, my voice steady, but my hands trembling slightly under the table. I would have loved to share this journey with you. I would have loved to call you when we landed our first major client. I would have loved to celebrate when we hit profitability. I would have loved to have a mother who believed in me instead of one who spent 12 years treating me like an embarrassment. My mom's eyes were filling with tears, but I couldn't tell if they were genuine or just another manipulation. You don't understand the pressure I was under. People asked about you constantly. What was I supposed to say? The truth, I suggested. That your daughter was working hard on something she believed in? That she was taking a risk? That you were proud of her for trying? I couldn't say I was proud when I didn't know if you'd succeed, she snapped, her real feelings finally showing. Do you know how it looked? My daughter, no husband, no kids, chasing some pipe dream in California while her brother was building a real life. And there it is, I said softly. You weren't worried about me. You were worried about how I made you look. Marcus tried to recover. Jess, come on. We're family. We always supported you. Did you? I turned to him. Because I distinctly remember you telling me to grow up and stop playing startup at least twice a year. I remember you and Mom talking about me like I was a charity case. I remember every single time you made me feel like I was the family failure while you were the golden child. His wife touched his arm, but he shook her off. So what? You're rich now and you're going to hold this over us forever? You're going to make us feel like shit because we didn't predict you'd hit the lottery. It wasn't the lottery, I said sharply. It was 12 years of 90-hour weeks. It was living on ramen and sleeping on air mattresses. It was pitching to 100 investors who said no before one said yes. It was building, iterating, failing, learning, and trying again. It was work, Marcus. Really hard work. The kind you've never had to do because you took the safe path. The table had split into camps now. Some relatives looked ashamed. Others looked defensive. My mom looked shattered. What do you want from us? She finally asked, voice small. An apology? Fine. I'm sorry. We're all sorry. We didn't know. That's the problem, I said, standing up and placing my napkin on the table. You didn't know because you never asked. You never wanted to know. You just wanted me to fit into your version of success, and when I didn't, you decided I was a failure. I grabbed my coat and my purse. I flew here because part of me hoped that maybe, just maybe, you'd all surprise me. That someone would ask about my work not to mock it, but because they genuinely cared. That Mom would hug me at the door and say she missed me, not announce my failures to a room full of people. Where are you going? My mom asked, panic rising. You just got here. It's Christmas. I'm going back to my hotel. I'm flying back to San Francisco tomorrow. And I'm going to spend my holidays with people who actually respect me. My mom rushed toward me. Jessica, please. Don't leave like this. Let's talk. Let's fix this. I looked at her carefully. For just a moment, I saw the mother she used to be, before Dad died, before bitterness took over, before my choices became personal insults to her. Mom, I don't need you to fix anything. I needed you to believe in me 12 years ago. I needed you to be proud of me 5 years ago. I needed you to defend me every single time someone at this table made a joke at my expense. But you didn't. So now, I don't need anything from you at all. I walked toward the door, and the entire family just watched. No one stopped me. No one apologized in any way that mattered. As I reached for the doorknob, Marcus called out, "If you're so rich and successful now, I guess you don't need family anymore, right?" I turned back one last time. I've never stopped wanting a family, Marcus. I just stopped wanting this family to treat me like I'm worthless. And I walked out into the snow. The aftermath came fast and messy. Within an hour, my phone was exploding. Texts from cousins I hadn't heard from in years. Voicemails from my mom, crying and begging me to come back. Messages from Marcus trying to downplay his comments and rewrite history. But the one that made me laugh was from my mom's best friend, Carol, who'd been at the dinner. Your mother is devastated. How could you humiliate her like that in front of everyone? After everything she's done for you. I blocked the number. Over the next few days, the family group chat became a war zone. Some relatives defended me. Others said I was flaunting my wealth and being cruel. My mom posted on Facebook about how success changes people and how money can't buy class. The comments were split. Her church friends rallied around her. But several people who knew me from high school reached out privately. I always knew you'd do something amazing. Sorry your family couldn't see it. 2 weeks after Christmas, my mom called from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Jessica. Her voice was different. Smaller. Less certain. Mom. I've been thinking a lot about what you said. About what I said. About everything. I waited. You were right, she continued, the words clearly painful for her. I was embarrassed. Not of you, but of myself for not understanding what you were doing. Your father would have gotten it. He was always the dreamer in our marriage. I was the practical one. When he died, I think I became too practical. Too scared. I sat down on my couch in San Francisco, watching the fog roll over the Golden Gate Bridge. I convinced myself that if I could get you to be like Marcus, safe and predictable, then you wouldn't get hurt. But instead, I was the one hurting you. Every single time I made a joke or a comment, I was trying to protect you by making you give up. And that was wrong. Yes, I said quietly. It was. I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I don't even know if you can forgive me at all. But I want you to know that I'm proud of you. I'm so incredibly proud of you. And I'm sorry I waited until you were worth $91 million to say it out loud. My eyes stung. I didn't need you to wait for the money, Mom. I needed you to be proud of the work. Of the trying. Of me choosing a hard path because I believed in something. I know. She was crying now. I know, baby. And I failed you. For 12 years, I failed you. We sat in silence for a moment, 2,000 miles apart, connected by all the hurt and history between us. What do you want from me now? I asked. Nothing, she said. I don't want your money. I don't want you to save me or Marcus or anyone else. I just want a chance to know who you actually are. Not who I wanted you to be, but who you've become. The daughter I stopped paying attention to somewhere along the way. I thought about hanging up. About cutting her off completely and building a new life with my new money and my new freedom. But I also thought about my dad and how he'd always said, people can surprise you if you give them the space to grow. Okay, I said finally. But it's going to take time. And you're going to have to actually listen to me. Not just wait for your turn to talk, but really listen. I will, she promised. I'll do better. I swear. We talked for another 20 minutes. Not about money or success or the past. Just small things. Her garden. My apartment. The weather. Baby steps towards something that might, eventually, look like a real relationship. When we hung up, I sat for a long time in the quiet. 6 months later, I'm writing this from my new home in Marin County, just north of San Francisco. It's a beautiful house with a view of the bay, but it's not a mansion. I didn't buy a yacht or a Ferrari or any of the flashy things people assume come with sudden wealth. Instead, I invested most of it, started a foundation to help women entrepreneurs get early-stage funding, and began working on my next company. Because the truth is, I didn't build that first company for the money. I built it because I loved solving problems. The $91 million was just proof that the work mattered. My relationship with my mom is still fragile, but it's real. She flew out to visit last month, and we walked along the beach together. She asked me about my new projects, actually listened to my answers, and didn't compare me to Marcus once. Marcus and I are civil now, but distant. He apologized eventually, but it felt more like he was sorry I had money and he didn't then sorry for how he treated me. Some relationships don't survive the truth. The rest of the family? Some rebuilt bridges. Others stayed bitter. I learned that not everyone wants you to succeed, especially if your success makes them question their own choices. But here's what I learned from that Christmas dinner. The best revenge isn't proving people wrong. It's living so fully and completely in your truth that their opinions stop mattering entirely. My mom spent 12 years mocking my little computer thing. In the end, that little computer thing bought me more freedom than she could ever imagine. Not just financial freedom, but the freedom to choose who gets access to my life and my energy. So let me ask you this. If you had the chance to prove everyone who doubted you wrong in one dramatic moment, would you take it? Or would you do what I did and let them underestimate you right up until the second you didn't need their approval anymore? Because the truth is, the moment I stopped needing my family to believe in me was the same moment I became truly unstoppable. And that's my story. The story of how I turned 12 years of mockery into one unforgettable Christmas dinner that my family will be talking about for the rest of their lives. Now it's your turn. Have you ever been underestimated by the people closest to you? Drop a comment below and let me know what happened. And if you love stories about people who got the last laugh after years of being counted out, hit that subscribe button. Because here at Revenge Time, we believe the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting everything you deserve. And I'll see you in the next one.